Welcome everybody to our Monday afternoon class. Hopefully you're all here to join us in learning how to make the Melody Shawl, which is a nice lace shawl, good for the spring weather. Darren's your teacher there. He's on screen showing off the pattern. He's going to be the one guiding us through all the instructions today. We obviously won't make the entire shawl in class, but we'll get you started through all the stitches so you can do it on your own. My name's Claire. I'll be hanging out in the chat and I can answer any questions you have there or forward them on to Darren. So make sure to use the Zoom chat if you've got questions. We are recording this class and it'll be available to watch again starting tomorrow afternoon on michaels.com, michaels.com/classes, or on the Michaels YouTube channel. And I'm going to pop the pattern in the chat a couple times in case you didn't get that ahead of time. Now that all that's out of the way, I'm going to let Darren take over.
Okay, welcome to class. We have a lot to cover, so we may as well jump right into it. So let's switch the view of the camera to the view of my hands, and we will get started. 1 second. Get everything ready. All right, so today, as Claire mentioned, we are going to be working on, we're going to learn all the skills we need to learn to make this, this really cute shawl. It's made out of Truboo yarn, which I have a sample of it right here. It comes in a lot of really great colors. So it has a bit of a sheen to it, so it's very pretty. It's very smooth. It's a very smooth yarn, so it gives a great stitch definition. It's 100% bamboo, which makes it very soft. It gives it a very soft drape, and it makes it very nice to work with. And it's also very eco-friendly, so it is good for the environment with using bamboo. Bamboo is a very eco-friendly fiber. This is a number 3 yarn, and it calls for a number 6 needle, if you're curious about that. But lots of yardage, 241 yards, so lots of yardage. It's a great yarn to work with. This yarn is available on lionbrand.com. It's also available on michaels.com as well. So lots of great colors for that. This pattern that I'm using today, it's a free pattern. If you don't get it from the chat, you can always go to lionbrand.com and put in the information and print a free copy. So always available to get a free copy. I worked up a little bit of the pattern to see how it's going to look and to practice. And this is what I got when I was working on the pattern. Very cute. We're going to work through a couple of different charts. And I'm going to show you how to read the charts, but it's a very nice pattern to work. You might be doing a couple things that you've never done before with this one. There's a provisional cast on, and then there's an applied border at the end. So some exciting things to learn. And let's look and see what we're going to need. So if you're going to make the shawl, you are going to need 3 balls of the Truboo in color of your choice. Double pointed needle size 7, but if you don't like double pointed needles, don't worry about that because we're using them in a little different way, and we'll see that at the end. A crochet hook size G. So if you don't know how to crochet, don't worry about that because we're just using it just for a little minute, just for a second. Large eye blunt needles for weaving in your ends. And you are going to need a circular knitting needle size 7 that's 29 inches long. Although we're knitting flat, you do want to use a circular needle because you need that extra length to accommodate the size of the shawl. So that's why we're using a circular needle so that we can have that long shawl all on one needle. You wouldn't want to use a 14-inch long needle because it would be jammed on there too hard and it wouldn't be very nice to work with. All right, so that is what you need to get started. So starting the shawl, this shawl is done. It's started in a way that's a little bit different. Use a provisional cast on with a crochet hook. We're going to chain 7. Cut the yarn and pull the end through the last stitch to secure. Tie a loose knot on the end of this tail to mark it as the end. You'll need to unravel the chain later. So that is quite easy. Let me show you what we're talking about there. So we have this, just this scrap yarn. So you're just going to use a scrap yarn. Today in class, I'm not going to be using the Truboo. I'm going to be using Lion Brand's Hometown Bonus Bundle, just because it's a nice thick yarn and it's much easier to demonstrate with. And I think that the students will be able to see my stitches much easier with this larger yarn. So in class today, I'm just going to be demonstrating with this yarn. You don't need this for the shawl. If you want to make the shawl out of this yarn, you certainly can, but just for demonstration purposes, just so you know what yarn I'm using. This is also available on lionbrand.com or michaels.com. But just for demonstrating, which I think you'll appreciate in a little bit, you'll see how easy it is to see that yarn. So I'm going to start with a slip knot. You should know how to do a slip knot pretty much already. Tie a slip knot. And if you don't know how to crochet a chain, I'm going to teach you that. It's actually pretty easy. You want to do this kind of loosely, though. You don't want to pull it tight. So you just kind of tension your yarn, and you're going to pinch right under your slip knot to kind of hold it to hold the tension. So this is my working yarn. You want to hold it tight, and you want to have some tension against your hook. And all you're going to do is you're going to reach under your yarn, and you're just going to pull it back through your slip knot. So that counts as one. And you're going to kind of keep that loose, maybe a little more loose than you think. So one, so you're going to grab your working yarn, and you can kind of see how I turn my hook down to pull it back through the chain. So if you guys are knitters, maybe you've never crocheted before. So that's why I'm making sure to teach this part very carefully. So you take your hook, grab your yarn, and if you do crochet, I would also advise making this chain a little looser than you normally would, maybe. Not anything crazy, but just maybe a little looser. You can see I'm kind of leaving a good bit of slack there. Okay. And then you pull that through to secure it. And what it was telling us to do is just to tie a loose knot at the end. And what that's going to indicate for us is this is the end that we can unravel by. So I can, when I have to unravel my provisional cast on, I can go back and unravel it, and then it'll be much easier. If you try to unravel your crochet chain from this end, it's not going to work out so well. So you want to make sure you know which end you are working from. So kind of go from there. Okay. Now, when you're looking at your crochet chain, if you've never looked at one before, you just take a second and see what you're seeing. So this side of the chain, it almost looks like knit stitches. You can see those kind of V shapes, and it's kind of flat. But if you turn it over on the other side, you're going to see these bumps, and they almost look like purl bumps. So that's what we're looking for, is we're looking for those purl bumps. So it does kind of remind you of knitted fabric, because this looks like the knit stitch. And then on the other side, we see those bumps, and they kind of look like a purl stitch. So if you think about it that way, it'll help you find them. And what we're going to do is we're going to pick up 3 stitches through those purl bumps. And there's a couple ways you can do that. I like to use my crochet hook. It makes it a little easier. And you're just going to go, trying not to split your yarn, but you're just going to go right through that purl bump. Just going to go right through there. And this is why you want to make sure it's loose, so that you'll be able to do that, and it'll be easy. And then you just pull it back through. I have 1 stitch picked up. Just kind of use your finger to help bring that through. 2 stitches picked up. 3 stitches. Now I find it very easy to do it with my crochet hook, but you can certainly do it with a knitting needle. So then you go through. Can you see where I'm going through? Going through these bumps right here. So you go through that bump. And then wrap your yarn. And bring it through. Don't split it. And this is picking up a stitch. Okay, so you can do it with your crochet hook or you can do it with a knitting needle. Any questions about crocheting the chain or picking up the stitches? How are we doing? Okay. The reason we're casting on like this is because a provisional cast on, we're going to knit for a little while, and then we're going to unravel this and we're going to take this white yarn away. And when we take this white yarn away, what that's going to leave us will be 3 live stitches. And we're going to put those live stitches back on our knitting needle and knit from them. And then that will give us, it'll make it so that there's no seam or that there's no way to tell that it was connected there. So it's going to give us a very nice even line of unbroken, uninterrupted stitches. So that's why we're knitting this in this situation and this way. Other times they might have you cast on like this. You might be joining these live stitches to something with Kitchener stitch. There are lots of different reasons, but for this pattern, eventually we're going to come back and pick these stitches up and then knit with them as live stitches. So that's kind of what's happening. Now, it's not just for fun. It's not just because, oh, this is an exciting new way. If I didn't have to, I'd probably just cast on the regular way. Okay. And then it's telling us to knit stockinette stitch. So knitting stockinette stitch, of course, is just knitting on the right side and putting all of our purls on the wrong side. Okay, and then turn your work. And purling, sorry, I bumped my camera. I've got a new setup. I'm trying to practice to make a better setup. I hope it looks a little better this week. Okay, so we're just going to continue the knitting stockinette stitch until we have, I think it's 52 rows, but I'll go back and double check the pattern here in a second. But we all know how to knit stockinette stitch, correct? Any questions about anything so far? We've already learned quite a bit, actually. There's quite a bit to learn already. All right, so let's see what happens with a little bit of television magic, right? Well, that's not the right one. Here we go. All right, so let me transfer this back to my proper size needle. I just have it on this needle just to hold it. I only have so many size 13s. Okay. All right, so here what I've done was, here's my cast on, my provisional cast on. And then here is my knitting. And I didn't knit 52 stitches because I didn't think I quite needed to for the demonstration. But let's look at our pattern and see what it's having us do next. Okay, so we picked up our stitches here. Beginning with the right side row, we're going to work in stockinette stitch, meaning knitting on the right side, purling on the wrong side on those 3 stitches for 51 rows. We'll have a total of 51 rows. And then we're going to rotate the piece 90 degrees and pick up and knit 25 stitches along the side edge, picking up 1 stitch every other row. And then we're going to rotate the piece 90 degrees again, unzip our provisional cast on, and pick up the 3 live stitches along the provisional cast on edge with our free needle, and then knit them. And after that, we should have 31 stitches. Now in this situation, it's going to be very important that you do have 31 stitches here, because if you don't, it's going to mess up your charts later on. So after you get to this point, you want to double check and count and make sure you do have 31 stitches, okay? So let me show you what it's telling us to do. Okay, so here are there's my provisional cast on. Here is my tab, my 3 stitches that I've been working on. And I'm going to I'm going to purl 3 more, so I'm back on the knit side. Okay. And I'm going to pick up my stitches along here. So again, you can use your knitting needle to pick them up, and it says pick up every other stitch, but following every other stitch is one thing, but you do want to make sure you have the exact number. So if for some reason you get to towards the end and you find out you're not going to have the exact number, you might want to go ahead and pick up an extra stitch somewhere, maybe forego the every other stitch and pick up 2 in a row if you need to get that exact number. I think that would be okay. So what you're going to do is you're going to reach under that stitch, the side of it. So you're going to reach under. So I'm picking up those 2. There's the V.
Quick question, Darren.
Okay.
If you've knit an odd number of rows, wouldn't you be picking up along the other side of the tab there? Or is my mental math wrong?
Possibly. So you'd be ending with the knit side picking up on the purl side? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, because if you've done an odd number of rows, and so say row 1 is a knit, and you've knit 51 rows, that means you should have just finished a knit row.
Okay, so we're picking them up on this side. Okay, I don't think it makes much difference, but we can pick them up on this side. So what you want to make sure you're doing is you want to find your knit stitch, the first knit stitch on those 3. So there's only 3, so it should be easy to find. Sometimes that edge stitch wants to curl under, so you do need to find it. And you are going to go under. I like to pick it up this way. Pick it up with your crochet hook. And you can pick up a bunch on your crochet hook. So you're going to skip that one. Go to the next one. Claire, do you find it easier to do it with a crochet hook, or do you just do it with your needle?
I usually just do it with my needle because I don't like to faff around with transferring the stitches.
Yeah. So what I don't know, I do it both ways, and then you can just transfer them kind of off onto the needle that way, or go ahead and do it with the needle. Wait a minute, now I've twisted it. So you enter the stitch. So it's just kind of like knitting. Wrap the yarn and then bring it through. Skip one. You want to make sure you're going under 2 strands. Wrap the yarn, pick it up. Skip that one. We're going to do every other one. Just skip that one. Any question about picking up stitches? Can you guys see what I'm doing all right? Yes, okay, you should always have the right side. Whenever you're picking up stitches, you always want to have the right side facing you, because it creates a seam that you probably don't want on your right side. So it will create a seam on the opposite side of whatever you're picking up. So you can see here, it's hard to see because it curls. But right here, that's going to be a seam that will be on the wrong side of my work. So you always pick stitches up from the right side. And sometimes the purls are the right side and sometimes the purls are the wrong side. So whatever your pattern is telling you the right side or the wrong side is, just double check that. Always pick up stitches. Unless if for some reason you need that seam on the right side, there could be a situation where that could happen. But as a general rule, okay. And this is why I didn't pick up, this is why I didn't knit the whole 52 stitches, because I didn't want you to have to watch me pick up all those stitches. So it's a little faster. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to untie this little knot, which indicated which side. Hopefully that's what I did there. I did it right. Okay. And I'm going to, whoops, nope. So here is actually the side that I need to unravel. That's the knot that I tied to indicate it. So I'm going to unravel this knot and I'll make it much easier. And then what you have to do is you have to pull it through this loop to kind of loosen that. And then you can see it just unravels very easily, like you're unraveling, just like your knit stitches would unravel very easily. And what I like to do is you kind of want to catch them. You don't want to just kind of unravel them and let them fall. So one at a time. There's my stitch. And here's my next one. Whoops, did I let one drop? Shoot, it looks like I let one drop. Let's see if I can find it. Okay. Be careful you don't let any drop. And now that I've got those on my needle, I've picked those stitches up. Now I'm going to knit them. 1, 2, 3. And you might want to practice, if you've never done this before, I do recommend practicing that on some scrap yarn before you start on your real project. And what that will do for you, it gives you uninterrupted stitches. So these stitches go this direction and they're uninterrupted and you don't have any kind of a indication, a seam or anything. You do have this seam from where you picked up your stitches. And then the shawl is actually going to be built in this direction. So it's going to kind of come triangular out from here. And then this will end up being the part that's kind of around the top of your neck. Like this will be kind of where your neck rests if you're wearing it in a traditional way, and it should come out kind of triangular from there. So it's a little different, a little bit of a different perspective than you might have made other shawls from. So does that make sense? Do you want to see any of that again, or do you have any questions? Any questions at all? We doing all right, Claire?
I think we're doing good. We're also about halfway through class already, so.
Oh my goodness, we're halfway through.
I know.
All right, so are we ready to see some of the other skills we're going to need for this? So just remember, you can go back and rewind the class and watch it again tomorrow. So here, so after you've been through all of that, you feel like you've already been through a lot after you've done that. So you might want to take a deep breath or take a break. You do want to count your stitches. It's very important that you have 31 stitches right here. And so for the setup row on the wrong side, you are going to purl 3, place a marker, purl 1, place a marker, purl 23, place a marker, and purl 1 and place a marker. So you're going to need some stitch markers to keep track of where you are working. And then row number 1, now you're on the right side. So you might want to, sometimes it's nice if you aren't quite sure, if you stick a safety pin or something on the right side of your work, and then when you turn it and see that you're on the right side, then you will know where you are. Sometimes you might get confused, but if you stick a safety pin, then that way you'll always be sure exactly where you are. All right. And then it's instructing us to keeping the first and the last 3 stitches in stockinette stitch, work in pattern as established until, oh, wait a minute, I skipped a whole line. So row 1, the right side, you're going to knit 3, slip marker, you're going to work row 1 of A. Slip marker, work row 1 of pattern B. Slip marker, work row 1 of pattern A. So that sounds really confusing until if you come over here and look at these charts, we have charts here with all of these crazy signals on them, like these little symbols. And the way you read a chart, if you've never read a chart before, you want to look at these numbers. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then it continues that way. And that's just how you work the chart. You start with number 1, you work across. Number 1 is on the right side. So RS stands for right side. Right side and wrong side, not left side and right side, but right side and wrong side. You work across, you go to row 2. Now you're on the wrong side. Go 3, 4. So you just work it like this. You follow the numbers and you just go across. That's how you follow a chart. So you're going to work the first row of chart A, and then you're going to slip your marker, and then you're going to work the first row of chart B, slip your marker, and then you're going to go back to A, slip your marker. You're going to do your 3 stitches of your edging stitch. You're going to turn your work and you're going to work your way back. You're going to do 3 of your edging stitch, keeping it in stockinette stitch. And then on row 2, you're going to go across and work row 2. Now let's look at what these symbols mean and how do we figure out what these symbols mean. So if you go towards the last page, you have this key right here, and this gives you what each one of those symbols mean. And I'm going to demonstrate how to do each one of these techniques now as quickly as I can. The square, an empty square, just means on the right side rows, you're going to knit, and on the wrong side rows, you're going to purl. Now that sounds like stockinette stitch, right? So basically you're just going to be maintaining stockinette stitch. This dot is on the right side rows, you're going to purl, and on the wrong side rows, you're going to knit. So that's reverse stockinette stitch. So you're just going to be doing the opposite. You're going to be on the right side rows, you're going to purl, and on the wrong side rows, you're going to knit. So this circle with the hole in the middle, so it's just like a standard circle, is a yarn over. And this, it's kind of like a T, but it's on its end and it's kind of leaning towards the left. That's knit 2 together. So let's demonstrate. I'm going to demonstrate how to do some of these. I'll show you how to do a yarn over, a knit 2 together, and an SSK right now. just in case if you don't know how to do those techniques. So let me see here. I have a swatch made up right here. How to do each one of those. So first I'm just going to knit a couple of stitches to kind of get into my row. Okay, so a yarn over. I've seen people do yarn overs many different ways, but the way I do it is you just wrap your yarn around your needle and then that's done. So you don't insert your needle like you're going to knit or anything. You just hold your right hand needle and you just, however you wrap your yarn. I wrap my yarn with my left hand, which is kind of weird, but you can wrap it with your right hand. You can, if you knit continental, you can kind of pick it up that way. So all you do is you wrap your yarn around your needle and that's a yarn over, okay? And then so I'm gonna just knit one and show you yarn over again. It's very easy. Yarn over. Now a yarn over is gonna create a hole in your work because it's not attached to anything underneath, but it also adds a stitch. So if you're doing lace, these holes are arranged in like a way to make a design, like a zigzag or a flower or something. So that's kind of what makes your lace pattern. But it's also adding a stitch. So sometimes you want to add a hole, but you don't want to add a stitch. So we've added a stitch. So now what we're going to have to do is knit two together to take away a stitch, and then that will maintain our stitch count. So for knit two together, normally when you knit, you would go through here. So knit two together, you go through 2 stitches, wrap your yarn, bring it back through. So that's pretty easy. So go through 2 stitches, wrap your yarn. Okay, so that's knit 2 together. Now SSK is another way to do a decrease. And the reason we have to do different types of decreases is because they actually lean different directions and it will indicate which way, it will help make your design look a little bit nicer depending on if they lean to the left or to the right. So let me show you how to do an SSK. So you take your right hand needle and you enter the stitch as if to knit. So you enter the stitch as if to knit and you slip it. So slip as if to knit, slip as if to knit, and then you take your left hand needle and you go through. So you set it up like this. And I'll do this again so you can see it. And then you wrap your yarn and you bring it through. Oops. Bring it through both. Transfer it over. Let me see if I can do that again so you can see it a little more clearly. So you slip, so it's SSK, so slip, slip, knit. So slip as if to knit, slip as if to knit, and then you take your left hand needle. And if you want to kind of pull under those a little bit to kind of open up that space, you go through both stitches, and now it's basically like a knit 2 together. Okay, and the reason, and you can see it's kind of leaning. The reason we slip it as if to knit, and if you watch what happens when I slip it as if to knit, you can see it causes that stitch to twist. And that's what we want. So slip it, so you can see this leg is in the front, and when we slip it as if to knit, it twists and then the back leg becomes in the front. And that's going to cause it to twist and lean in the opposite direction of a knit 2 together. Okay, so that is yarn over, knit two together, and SSK. And then now it's going to want us to do, wherever there is a, it looks like a little bird foot kind of. It's a triangle, but it has 3 lines and there's no bottom of it. So it kind of looks like a little bird foot to me right there. And that is an S2KP2. Now that sounds like a lot. It's not as hard as it sounds, but what it's telling us to do is slip the next 2 stitches at once, knitwise, knit 1, and then it tells us P2SSO, which if you don't know what that means, it doesn't mean anything to anybody, but thankfully I do know what it means. So let me show you. It means to pass the 2 slip stitches over is what it means, but it would be nice if it spelled that out. So let me show you how to do that. So we're going to slip 2 stitches as if to knit. So we're going to enter them kind of like we were going to knit 2 together at once. And so you can kind of see it causes them to kind of twist. So slip the next 2 stitches at once, knitwise, and then we're going to knit 1. Okay, seems like a crazy thing to do. And then we're going to pass the 2 slip stitches over. And what it wants us to do is to pass these 2 stitches over this one that we just knit. Let's see if I can do this without looking through my camera. So you're going to pick them up. You can kind of stretch them a bit if you need to. And it's almost like binding off. We're going to drop them over the edge. And now what happens now is we've decreased by 2. So we've taken 3 stitches and turned them into 1. So let me show you that again. So it almost starts like a knit 2 together, only you're just slipping them over. And then we knit 1. Okay, and now we've got that. And then we're going to slip the 2, we're going to pass the 2 slip stitches over the one we knitted. All right, are we able to see what I was doing? Do you want me to do it again? You can see it creates a kind of a big, okay. Do it one more time. Slip 2. Knit 1. And kind of stretch it down a little bit so you can get in there and pick them both up. And it's almost like a bind off. Okay. Any questions about any of that? We doing all right? Are we doing okay? And then, so this one just means to bind off a stitch. The star is the stitch that remains after the bind off, and then we're going to slip a stitch purlwise. These are situations we're going to run into when we're doing the applied edging, and that's what I'm going to show next, unless if anyone has any questions or wants me to go back. I'll show you how to do the applied edging. Any questions about chart reading, about any of the stitches we just went over? Any questions at all? Nope, I thought there'd be more questions. Okay. All righty. So let me move this out of the way. Okay, another swatch to demonstrate how to do the applied edge. All right, so once we get through here, we've done our cast on, we've knitted our 51 rows, we've picked up all of our stitches, We've unraveled our provisional cast on and we've put those stitches back on. We did our setup row. We started knitting where we're working our charts. We continued on. And then eventually we're going to also then start working pattern C, which it's all the same principle. Once we, just working whichever chart it's telling you to work. You're starting at the bottom and just going across and back and forth. Each one of these squares represents one stitch, and whatever is in that square indicates what you should be doing. So if it's just an empty square, remember you're just knitting on the front and purling on the back. So just like normal, and then just look at these other little symbols and do them as you come to them. Same thing with D. And it's pretty straightforward. Once you get into the charts, I think you'll enjoy them. They're actually pretty easy to work.
Before we leave charts, Darren, what does that bold box mean on the chart?
The bold box means that is basically indicating your pattern repeat. It doesn't make as much, it's not really as clear as it could be on a different chart because this one is shaped in a triangle. So you're not like getting like proper, like perfectly even pattern repeats. But that's kind of what the pattern repeat looks like. So as you can see here, you've kind of got these three little sections, and that's the same thing you're seeing here. Here, you're not quite getting the whole thing because it's cut off. So you're kind of getting them, but because it's triangular shaped. So like here, you're getting this repeat. The whole thing's the repeat. So that's why it doesn't, you're just repeating the whole thing. Can you explain that a little better, Claire, or does that make sense?
I was going to say, yeah, some of the other patterns are a little more clear. And so after you've repeated that pattern a couple times, because you're adding stitches on the edge, you'll add more stitches in the middle of the pattern. And so say on row 3, you'll start with your yarn over, knit 2, and then you'll repeat those stitches in the box until you get to the last however many stitches there on the end. I can't count when Dara's holding it.
All right. So this one's a little bit more clear because you can see you have this big rectangle here, and then the stitches right next to it it's basically, it's not really the same though, is it? It's almost the same, but it's not quite. But that's kind of what you're repeating. That's creating the repeat. But if this were instead of a triangular shape, if this were more of a rectangle, like all the way around this, like the band of a sweater or a hat, you would be able to see that repeat much clearer. But because it's creating this triangular shape, it's kind of harder to tell that it's just the repeat. Correct?
And and that's just a way of saving space in the pattern so that the chart, they don't have to represent every single stitch in that row. And so it's a way of saving space in the pattern.
But you don't have to worry about that too much. Just follow each line, starting with 1, progressing, 2 to 3 numerically, and just do each square as you get to it, and you'll be fine. You don't have to get caught up necessarily on what that means. If you wanted to take this lace pattern and apply it to a different project, then you could just use that as your repeat and follow it that way. Wouldn't that work, Claire?
Yeah, you could.
Yeah. Okay. So I do want to show how to do this applied edging because that's another skill that you might not have done before. Doesn't always come up very often. So we're going to use a double pointed needle. So with a double pointed needle, cast on 10 stitches. With the right side of the shawl facing you, beginning with pattern E, working 1 row unattached to the shawl, you'll begin attaching the border to the shawl on row 2. Repeat rows 1 through 8 of pattern E along the lower edge of the shawl, attaching 1 live stitch to the shawl stitch to the edging every 2 rows. And you're going to do a double join at the points. And then you're going to bind off loosely and block the shawl. So if we go back up here, once we finish knitting the bottom of the shawl, so we've knitted the entire body of the shawl, it's telling us do not bind off. So we're going to be working with live stitches. So do not bind off, but cut the yarn. So you're going to cut your yarn, but you're leaving live stitches. And at this point, you know, it might be pretty to, you could do the border in a different color if you wanted to have a different colored border. It might be a cute idea. It's a style choice. You can make that decision or just do it all the same color. So here is chart E. And starting right here with row 1, I'm going to work across and demonstrate how to do that. Okay. So pretend that this is the whole body of my shawl, and then this is the right side. I'm going to cut my yarn and not bind off. So I'm cutting my yarn. You want to leave a long enough tail to weave in for finishing. And then with my double pointed needle, I'm going to cast on 10 with a long tail. I'm going to use the long tail cast on. So 2, 3, do whatever cast on you like. Okay, cast on 10. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I did 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, always double check your counts to make sure. Okay. And then, so S is the first thing it wants me to do. So S means to slip the stitch purlwise. So usually when you're slipping stitches, usually you do slip purlwise. When you slip purlwise, you change the stitch from one needle to the next without twisting it. So that way your stitch mount remains nice. If you slip it knitwise, it causes it to twist. And sometimes that is an important thing for whatever you're doing. But it should tell you, if it just says slip a stitch, you slip it purlwise, unless if it indicates otherwise. And then we're going to knit 1, knit 2 together, knit 2 together, yarn over, knit 1, yarn over, knit 1, yarn over. Oops, almost dropped a stitch. Yarn over, and then SSK, so slip as if to knit, slip as if to knit. SSK. And then do 2 yarn overs. Knit 2 together. And then knit 1. Okay. So I'm just working on my double pointed needle so far. And now the next one, we have those 2 dots, there's 3 dots, and those 3 dots we're going to knit on the wrong side and purl on the right side. So what I did was I just put a little K next to them so I'd remember when I get to those little dots, I'm supposed to knit them, just because I didn't want to have to think about it each time. And then these squares, we're going to purl, because we're going to knit on the right side and purl on the wrong side. And then this little arrow, we don't know what that means. So let's look at that. We're going to slip the next edging stitch, knit the next stitch from the body of the shawl, and then pass the slip stitch over. So that's what's going to actually join it to the shawl. All right. So let's see how that's going to work out. And then once you do that the first time, it's just repeating the same thing over and over. So it's actually quite easy. It seems hard when you're first starting it, but once you get the hang of it, it's like anything else. Once you know how, it's going to be pretty easy. So we're going to knit on the wrong side with these 3 dots. Bring the yarn forward to purl. And we're going to purl until we get to the very last stitch. And then we're going to start joining it to our shawl. So make sure you're working on the right side. So there's the right side of my shawl. So we're going to slip to 1 stitch, slip the last stitch, knit the next stitch from the body of the shawl. So knit the next stitch from the body of the shawl. You might want to keep everything pulled tight. And then pass the slip stitch over. And so that's joining it. And then go back to the next chart. So now I am on, I did 1, I did 2, now I'm going to be on 3. So turn your work. Okay, and then you just continue on. Any questions? Do you want to see me do any of that again, or how are we feeling about it?
We had a little more discussion of how to read the chart repeats in that little bold box. Yeah.
All right, do we want to talk about it, or how are we doing?
I was going to say, where did I put my explanation here? So to clarify that repeat box, you'll work the stitches in the row before you get to that bold line, if you're either from the left or right, depending on if you're a right side row or a wrong side row. And then you'll repeat the stitches in the box until you're almost at the end of the row. And once you end the last repeat, you should have the same number of stitches left as the rest of the squares in that row on the chart. And then you'll just work the rest of that row of the chart as it's shown. Hopefully that made sense.
Okay. Yeah, but again, like you don't, like I just, when you come to a chart though, do you really like focus on that very much, or do you just follow it line by line, stitch by stitch?
Right, so say, row 1, it doesn't make much difference in the first 2 rows of that pattern C chart. But say, and not so much in row 3 either, honestly, because you're repeating almost the same number of stitches. But if you have more than the stitches that are shown there, you don't want to start again at the beginning of that row and then circle around, because then you'll have your edge yarn over in the wrong place.
Yeah.
And so you'll work that yarn over knit 2, and then the knit 2 together, yarn over, knit 1, yarn over, slip, slip, knit 1, and then come back again to the knit 2 together right there.
Okay. I agree. I'm not going to disagree with you. How's that? How's that for an answer?
Okay.
I,
We
as a general rule, I make a general rule, never disagree with Claire.
we have some more questions on the edging.
Okay, so what was the question?
Let's see. We had a couple of people that wanted to see the next row.
Oh, shoot, well, I took it out. I was going to start. Do you want to start it over? Because I thought we'd probably want to start that over.
Here's one though. It says, to attach the edging, you've just completed row 2 of pattern E. Would you just continue with row 3 on the body of the shawl? You don't turn the work and continue with the edging stitches. But yes, that's exactly what you do. So for the edging, you're just following pattern E.
Yeah, so for the edging, you cast on 10 stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And you, that's exactly what you're doing. You work across, you slip the first stitch, you work across on your double pointed needle, you go up, you work across on your double pointed needle again. And where this arrow is, where you slip the one stitch from your edging, you knit the stitch from the body of the shawl and then pass the slip stitch over. That's joining the edging to the shawl. And then when you go up to number 3, then you're turning your work and you're working across those 10 stitches on your double pointed needle again. And then when you work the next one, you get back to this arrow, you're joining it to the shawl one stitch at a time. So every other row of the edging, you will be joining it to the shawl one stitch at a time. And instead of binding off, this is what's going to basically bind off your shawl edging, and you're going to end up with the applied border. And the border is going to end up being perpendicular to the stitches of the shawl. So they're going to be, like if you were doing garter stitch, the rows would run horizontal and then vertical towards the shawl would be vertical and the edging would be horizontal. It would make like a nice edging. So, but that's exactly what you're doing. You are you're only knitting one stitch of the body of the shawl every other row. Does that make sense, Claire? Did I explain that right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. So we have about 3 minutes left. Do we want any other questions? There's a lot in this class, so I hope it was.
Can you show the start of the shawl again in Truboo, Darren? I don't think we have a finished sample. Sorry, everyone asking for that.
No, I didn't. I was in my mind, I was thinking I would have time to knit the whole thing, but I didn't. So yeah, so here is, I don't have a sample of the edging to show, but this is how the shawl starts out. And this is where it started with my provisional cast on right here. And then where you're knitting the 3 stitches, maintaining the stockinette stitch on the 3 edges, it kind of creates this nice border the whole way across. So it's very pretty, it's very fun. If you do run into any questions or have any problems, you feel free to contact me on my social media. On Instagram and TikTok, my username is Mr. Woolly Bear. Maybe Claire will put that in the chat for everyone. It's spelled out M-I-S-T-E-R, Woolly Bear, and you can feel free to send me a direct message, and I try to answer them as quick as possible. If you want to send me a message on Facebook, you can, it's just my name on Facebook. So send me a direct message on Facebook. And then that way, once you get into it, if you have questions, you can contact me, or you can rewatch the recording of this video tomorrow. And that will be another way you can get help. All right. Any other questions? I think we're about done.
If you wanted to cast on just enough stitches for like a practice, how many would you say, Darren?
To practice, oh, I don't know. You would want to, if you're going to practice both charts, you'd have to make sure you have enough to work through both charts. Oh, I'm not sure, Claire. What would you say?
I was going to say, I don't know the stitch counts of the charts off the top of my head, but it would be the total for row 1 of A, row 1 of B, and then row 1 of A again. And I'd
Yeah.
probably put some edging stitches so you're not trying to do lace right at the very beginning or end.
Yeah, do 3 stitches on each end for edging. So add 6 for edging. But yeah, it is a good idea to practice. So yeah. But I don't know. I hate to tell you the wrong number, but yeah, just do enough to do for each one. So actually it might be what it is, because I think that's what it works out to be when I was doing it.
I think, yes, we're probably making this too complicated, and it's going to be 31 stitches. Yeah.
It'll be 31 stitches. Yeah. So if you just want to practice it though, you might not have, you can just cast on 31 stitches like normal and just practice the chart without like knitting the 52 stitches of tab and then picking up stitches along the edge and doing the provisional cast on. You could just cast on 31 stitches and then just practice the chart from there. That might be a little bit easier, so you don't have to do all of that work to get going. So
yeah. All right, I'm going to put the pattern in the chat here one more time in case anybody missed that. And another reminder that we did record this class, and it should be available in about 24 hours on michaels.com/classes. It should also be on their YouTube channel if you want to just go straight to YouTube.
Yeah, and then if you do have questions, feel free to contact me. I'll be glad to help with any questions that I can.
And we won't see you next week, but we'll be back on the 24th.
Okay. All right, practice, have fun. Bye, everybody.